This is the Marlins Dream Draft, where Marlins experts assemble their own 12-man mini squads of must-have active players, where I invite actual Marlins experts onto the show and just try to keep up with them. Alex Carver, aka Mr. Fish on the Farm, thank you for coming on.
Hey, Eli, thanks for asking me to do it. I'm really excited for this. It should be awesome.
And Daniel DeVivo joining us all the way from Colombia. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, Eli, this is amazing, man. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Super fun, super excited. You both know I'm going to win, but yeah.
Alex and Daniel, they co-host the Swimming Upstream podcast, available wherever you are listening right now. And this exercise is most valuable to our audience when we actually know what we're talking about. And that's why I can't think of any two people better to bring on in this situation, because they know the Marlins minor league system inside and out. And that's how you kind of put this all together between the active players that we all see on the big screen and the ones that are coming up on deck right behind them, the next wave of talent for this Marlins Dream Draft. I sent you guys the rules ahead of time, but we're going to go over the rules right now that I've ironed out a little bit from the first experiment that we did with this back in July with the Fish Army guys, with Shane and Jacob back then. And I feel like I've ironed out the technicalities with this to make it really valuable and exciting and unpredictable. So the objective is to build the best possible team for the next 10 years. Just imagine for the 2021 through 2030 seasons, putting together a team of guys that are going to be productive at the major league level during that interval. It's going to be a 12-round dream draft. We're going to draft 36 total players, 12 for me, 12 for Alex, 12 for Daniel. Each team must draft players to fill the following positions: catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, 3 outfielders, the designated hitter, a right-handed pitcher, left-handed pitcher, and a wild card. That could be anybody at any position that you really want to squeeze onto the roster after those regulars. All players in the Marlins organization right now are eligible, from the 2020 draft picks that are just getting through their first summer of development to the oldest vets that are still at the end of their contracts, still technically Miami Marlins. And the best part, to move it along, to get through 36 players in a not too ridiculous amount of time, I'm going to have a 2-minute time limit in between picks. When the previous person is announcing the name of their pick, I'm going to be keeping my own timer, and we're going to keep the explanations pretty short. You know, when you pick a player, you want everybody to know why that player is so great, but we're going to want to be relatively concise with those explanations to allow for some crosstalk and to keep things flowing along. Any questions for either of you?
Let's do it.
Ready, man.
All right. The only thing that hasn't been decided is the draft order. The three of us, obviously, in this situation, I mean, I don't think there is like a unanimous number one pick in this situation. So maybe it's not super duper important, but we're going to be going 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Whoever holds the first pick also picks first in the second round and the third round and the fourth round. So it is an advantage. The way we're going to decide it is with a trivia question that I've written down days ago, but I promised not to research it. I think you guys can see me. I'm going to close my eyes so that I can't even look it up while we're having this, while we're taking our guesses. The trivia question is, during the 2020 season, how many games did the Miami Marlins win at Marlins Park? How many true home wins did they get at Marlins Park this year? I don't want you to overthink it. We're going to go to Daniel first. Just give me a number, the number of wins at Marlins Park that you think the Marlins had this year.
16.
All right, Alex, you can't guess the same number, either a higher or lower number. What is your guess for the number of wins at Marlins Park?
Wow, it's a good question. They were on the road an awful lot, weren't they?
Exactly.
Even if it was home games on the road, right? So I'll say.
Oh no. These are only games at Marlins Park.
Correct. So I'll say 19 games.
You think the Marlins? All right. I promised I didn't research it. I still don't know the answer right now, but I'm confident it is lower than both of those numbers because they played most of their games away from Marlins Park, 60-game schedule. My guess is going to be 11. And now I'm going to actually look it up. Daniel had 16. Alex had 19. I had 11. And I know it's, and the answer is, the answer is exactly 11. That's suspicious. That's suspicious.
No, man.
But I promise I didn't know it. I just knew
we
that.
believe you, Eli. Come on. We believe you.
All I knew is they played less than half their games at Marlins Park because they weren't able to make up all those dates and get opponents to travel down there. Yeah,
You're
I knew,
absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I just knew it was smaller than 16. So therefore, I get the number one pick. Daniel will go second. Alex will go third. And with the number one overall pick in the Marlins Dream Draft, Team Eli selects outfielder J.J. Bleday. J.J. Bleday was the first round pick for the Marlins in 2019, instantly given a very difficult assignment in High A Jupiter, and one that he really, especially towards the end of that summer, really showed flashes of potential. Got the invite to Major League Spring Training in 2020, continued to impress over there, spent the whole summer developing at the alternate training site. Vanderbilt product, just turned 23 years old. And even though he's had so few experience in real live minor league games, I think he could be up in the majors by the end of 2021 and be a mainstay in their lineup for the better part of a decade as a solid, above average, everyday outfielder, if not something a lot more than that. Someone that could be an all-star when everything clicks right. Someone that just checks a lot of the boxes you want from the tools he has, the intangibles he brings, the work ethic. I thought he was the safest guy I had looking forward to the next decade. And now, Daniel, for number two overall, everybody left on the board. And hold on, before putting you on the clock, I'm going to try to share my screen because I'm going to try to display everything for you guys so we can see the draft board progressing as we go along. For Team Eli, an outfielder. And now you can get creative with these picks because of the defensive versatility that a lot of players in this organization have. So when you pick a player, be sure to specify his position just to be totally clear. Team Eli going number one.
Sounds good. I'm really excited about JJ, Eli. He looks like the real deal. So he's so polished. I think that's the word. So yeah, great pick there.
And I'm just going to try to share the screen right here. Did it share? Perfect. All right, Daniel, whenever you're ready, I'll give you a couple more seconds if you need it. With your number one pick, the number two overall pick in this draft, who do you have in mind?
All right, so for my first round pick, I'm going to go with right-hander Sixto Sanchez. Not much to say that everybody doesn't know. Kid is amazing, has an amazing future. I do see him as our ace for the next 10 years, hopefully, if the Marlins can take care of the contractual obligations. 100 miles per hour fastball, amazing changeup, beautiful control. He still needs to develop, still needs to learn a few things, but he's ready, and he'll be here for a long time. So he's my right-handed pitcher, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the starts that he had this year, a number of ways that you could slice it. The first couple games of his career back-to-back, the way that he pounded the strike zone and the way that he generated grounders, there's just not a whole lot of precedent for what he could be. Of course, the overall stats at the end of his rookie season were more, he came back down to earth a little bit. And then, of course, once the postseason started, that postseason debut was pretty impressive too. And then right after that, pouring some water on that with how he struggled against the Braves. But tiny sample, the peripherals were awesome this year. And we had our eye on him throughout all of 2019 at AA, like the kind of success that he had down there, just a man among boys. So it's only a matter of time until he puts it all together at the major league level. I like it. I like it. And I can't blame you one bit for going with him. Number 3 pick, Alex, a couple more seconds here on the clock if you need it. But once you make your decision, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's kind of here picking third. I could go one of two ways. I could go with one of the kids, or I could go with the guy who is already at the major league level and producing, and who I think the Marlins will keep around here with Kim Ng and Derek Jeter. But I think I'm going to leave that guy to you, Daniel. I think you'll pick him, and I'll leave that to you. But I will pick shortstop Jazz Chisholm. I am picking shortstop Jazz Chisholm for the reasons because he's great not only on the field, but he's fantastic off the field. This guy really endeared himself to fans when we had fans in spring training. I mean, I was seeing kids before COVID and everything happened. I was seeing kids buying him unopened boxes of Sour Patch and handing them through the netting, and he was handing them baseballs in return. Just stuff like that I saw that made him stand out to me off the field. And then on the field, he speaks for himself. Some of the quickest hands in the organization. Has a little bit to clean up with the swing and miss. Could use to stay back on the ball a little bit more. But can play both middle infield spots, great speed, the bat speed to carry the ball for power. So Jazz Chisholm, I think this guy checks boxes across the organization, like JJ Bleday, who went first overall here, as a guy who can do it in every way that he needs to get it done. So Jazz Chisholm, my number 3.
Jazz went number 1 overall the first time I did this draft with the Fish Army guys. They love Jazz. I think for a lot of people, he's their favorite player, even regardless of what he did on the field. He's magnetic, that personality that he has. And those tools alone are crazy good. I don't know what you were alluding to prior to that pick, if you were hinting at someone in particular that that was going to fall to Daniel, but with the number 4 overall pick, my second rounder, I'm just looking at the depth chart that I put together ahead of time. I did a little bit of prep, and the next guy on my board is Brian Anderson, third base.
There you go.
I mean,
that's who I was referring to.
Yeah, I mean, Brian he was the guy that I took in the first rounder the first time we did this exercise too. He's what he is. Every year now, 3 full major league seasons for the Marlins. He's been among their best players in each of those seasons. And this year, there were certain ways that he took a step forward. Some particular things he did defensively that were even better than ever at third base for a guy that I guess in this kind of situation, you could also slot him as an outfielder. He has played a lot of his major league career to this point in right field, but finally got to settle in at third base throughout the shortened 2020 season. He made a lot of errors, but if you look past that and actually watch him every day, he's definitely a plus asset at that position. His home run rate this year was better than ever before, more swing and miss than ever before as well. You look up and he's going to be 28 early on in this upcoming year. So figuratively entering his prime right now, conceivably could be a guy that plays another 10 years in the big leagues. But realistically, I'm not even planning on that in this scenario. I'd be happy if he has another 5 or 6 years as a true everyday player and an above average everyday player that could reach slightly higher heights than he's already reached to this point. But the floor is pretty high on him just because of all the ways that he impacts winning and the way that not the super flashiest guy, but sneaky athletic. And especially he had that one signature play this year, that barehanded play that made Braxton Garrett's jaw drop, that he's sneaky marketable as well. He does some things that fans can really get behind. And we've seen that. We started the pay BA momentum probably over a year ago. And I think a lot of fans are behind just what Alex said before, locking him up long term. Without further ado, number 5 overall pick, back to Daniel. Who are you adding to your squad?
This one is strategic, but I think it's also the right guy to grab here. With my next pick, I am grabbing first baseman Lewin Diaz. Amazing hitter from the left side, beautiful power. He does not strike out as often as you'd think from a power guy, and it's just a beautiful swing. And combining that, just amazing defense at first base. You saw glimpses of it this year. while he didn't hit the ground running as many of us wanted to, offensively, he did not miss a beat at defense. Just his hands, his footwork, everything was amazing to watch. And you just know, he's going to be manning first base for the Marlins for a long time.
I love it. Yeah. Right in the middle.
Good luck finding first baseman, guys.
Exactly. No, that's a good strategy because of the drop off. Especially defensively, he's far and away. He's incredible relative to the other options the Marlins have, and he's one of the few guys that we could actually watch play baseball during the winter right now. He's with his winter ball team in the Dominican Republic, and he's already showing some nice flashes there after the rough major league debut this year in a limited sample. Got about 30 seconds left if you want it, Alex, between making your pick, but whenever it's ready in the second round, joining up with Jazz Chisholm, whoever you got.
Yeah, so I think I'm ready to go here, Eli. I'm going to take a guy here, and I kind of have it strategically based here too. With this pick, I was definitely going to go pitcher. Now it's between two guys for me because they're both still there. But the guy that I'm going to take here, I'm going to take my lefty, and I'm going to go with 2020 first round pick, Max Meyer. I am taking Max Meyer here with this pick in the second round of your draft. This guy is already so polished. I mean, obviously we haven't seen him play yet for the Marlins. Very limited showings for him, in a big league uniform so far. But as far as everything that we see and everything that we hear from college scouts, this guy is going to be ready to contribute pretty quickly. I see him starting next minor league season in Double-A. I could see him making it up to the majors possibly by the end of the year, depending how things go with scheduling and everything like that. But this guy's got heat. He's got 2 more pitches behind it. People knock his size a little bit. They say, can he keep that, the stress on the arm, is that really going to wear on him? I don't think it will. I think his arm slot is so polished. He throws everything from such a similar arm angle. I think this guy is going to stay around. I think he's going to stay healthy. And I think he's going to be, next to Sixto and maybe Edward Cabrera. I think he's going to be, right in there fighting for a rotation spot every single year, including, possibly 2021, definitely 2022. So taking Max Meyer here.
Yeah, just making sure. I thought I heard the word lefty slip in there. Right-hander Max Meyer, yeah?
I'm sorry, Eli, correct. Bats lefty, throws righty. Sometimes I get that confused. But yes, right-handed pitcher Max Meyer. I'm going with Max Meyer.
he does hit lefty. I saw that home run that he hit for Minnesota. He's not going to be swinging the bat. He might not swing the bat ever again.
Probably ever again, right?
Game, but he does have a pretty good swing from the left side. Yeah, he was pretty high up on my board. So I'm just as hyped for him as you are. Okay, that the Marlins are very insistent is going to be quick to the majors. They tried to suggest that he even had a chance to reach the majors in 2020. And I never really bought into that. I thought they were going to be more careful with him, as they should be. But yeah, we'll be seeing him pretty soon. And he's got incredible ceiling on him. With my third round pick, we're here at number 7 overall. Yeah, I'm worried about the alternatives at first base as we go on. So I'm going to take care of that position right now with first baseman Garrett Cooper. Cooper had in limited action this year. You could argue that on an at-bat basis, he was the best hitter in the Marlins lineup when he was healthy. Missed a lot of time because of COVID, and that kind of follows a trend with his career where he just has had awful luck with staying healthy and staying on the field, and so much of it out of his control. Obviously, this being the best example of that. When he's been healthy, though, as a Marlin, he's been not just this year, but also for much of 2019, he's been great. He's been like a everyday caliber player, which is a great find considering where he was in his career when the Marlins acquired him from the Yankees. I mean, frankly, they basically picked him off the scrap heap. The Yankees thought he was completely disposable. And what he's shown, aside from like solidly above average offensive production, is the fact that his like peripheral stats, when you look the beauties of StatCast showing the raw power that this guy has, it's incredible. It's right up there with anybody else in this Marlins organization. a lot of the longest home runs that we've seen from any Marlins player the last couple of years. The way he can hit to all fields and doesn't get too pull happy, doesn't really get into extended slumps of swinging and missing at the plate either. I mean, what you need to be careful of is his durability, because some of it is bad luck. Honestly, you can't chop up all of it to that. There are concerns about whether he can truly be a guy that plays 150 games during a season. He hasn't shown it. And that's kind of a risk that you're taking here. Also, with his age, the fact that he's about to turn 30, he's a guy that there are players that have had unlucky careers where they just haven't stayed healthy during their quote unquote prime. And by the time they're ready, they, their skills start to disappear. So this one, I know is a bit of a gamble, but I think relative to the position and the alternatives here on the board at first base, like going through the rest of the organization, we know that is a weak spot in the organization that I think Cooper could be at his best for these next 2, 3, 4 years. In real life, I don't know if he's going to stay a Marlin for all those years, but for right now, he's as dynamic an offensive player as they have, if you just focus on that side of the ball, and better first baseman defensively than he gets credit for as well. So I really chewed up all my 2 minutes there explaining it. Daniel, who are you looking at here in the third round?
All right, I'm going to pull a Mike Hill here and go pitching, layers of pitching. I'm going to continue with our lefty. And this is a guy who really surprised us this year, Trevor Rogers. He came out, guns blazing this year. Everybody had him at a 91 to 93 miles per hour. He seems good, he might be a number 5 pitcher. And then he came up and he was throwing 96, 97 in the corners. So again, also needs to develop. Doesn't even have a set spot next season, but you saw what was there. And I kind of came out a little, I'm not going to say disappointed, but a little worried about Braxton Garrett after this season. He needs to increase that velocity. Obviously, it was a small sample size, but what I'm saying is Trevor did put up a big difference, I'd say, between himself and our other lefty pitchers. So I'm going to go with Trevor on this one. Solid changeup. He was throwing the slider effectively as well, but just that fastball command is what really caught my eye this year.
Yeah, the commands and the velo was a little bit better than advertised for someone that we thought was going to be sitting in the low 90s. I mean, he had a couple starts where he was sitting 94, 95, like a couple of times through the order. So, yeah, I was impressed with him too. And yeah, I agree. I think I had him as the top lefty in the, yeah. I mean, we're on the same page here. And so unfortunately, I can't get everybody at one. That's a good pick right there. Another 15 seconds if you want it, Alex, for your third round pick.
I think I'm good to go here, Eli, and I definitely agree with Daniel about Braxton. Love Braxton. He looked awesome in spring training on the backfields. But, regular season, it is a small sample size, and everything else that we stated, sat a lot, didn't do much, obviously had to break for COVID and everything, got pushed into action. I'm not going to base a lot off of that. I'm going to go based off ceilings here. I am finally going to get my lefty with this pick, Eli. I am going to get another 2020 draft member. I'm going to get Daxton Fulton. Daxton Fulton here. I'm skipping him above Braxton Garrett for the reasons that I just stated. And I love Trevor. I think Trevor flew under the radar a lot. I think he really popped this year. I was going to get him if Daniel didn't, but I think Daxton Fulton is a good alternative here for me, filling that lefty spot, because this guy, as long as he can remain healthy, this guy's going to really, really pop. He's really, really going to be good, I think. Obviously, we haven't seen him yet. You got to see him pitch, right? But I'm taking him this high because Pipeline says it themselves. They have his ceiling, as long as he stays healthy, higher than Trevor and Braxton. And I think that could definitely happen. He's got huge thighs. What is he, like 6'7", 6'6", something like that, 240, 230, something like that. We probably won't see him in a big league game until like 2023, 2024, but I think he's really going to fly through the minors here, and I think he's going to turn some heads. Obviously, he's coming out of high school, no reason to really rush him, but, a guy that I would really look at as saying he has the stuff, he's got it now, as long as the health maintains and as long as it's there, he's going to be good, and he's going to be here sooner rather than later. So Daxton Fulton for me here.
Yeah, he's another one. Yeah, that's so far away because coming off the Tommy John and not playing in any organized games to this point, but I believe he just turned 19 years old. He's got so much time ahead of him. And yeah, for the purposes of this exercise, it just, you wonder how quickly he will be up to the majors just because of all the boxes he already checks. And maybe he's the guy that does get up fairly quickly. Even if the the actual innings totals aren't that high until a few years down the road. I like it. I like it a lot. And yeah, I've seen the same things from scouts. A quick review of where we are through 3 rounds. Team Eli with outfielder JJ Bleday, third baseman Brian Anderson, first baseman Garrett Cooper. Team Daniel with Sixto Sanchez, right-handed pitcher, first baseman Lewin Diaz, left-hander Trevor Rogers, and Team Alex with shortstop Jazz Chisholm, right-hander Max Meyer, left-hander Daxton Fulton. And I love where I am right now, considering the positions you guys already took and what I still need. So I'm going to actually shake up what I already had planned. With my 4th round pick, we're going to hear at number 10 overall. I'm taking my second outfielder, and it's Jesus Sanchez, 23 years old, acquired in 2019 in that Nick Anderson trade. And I guess the early impressions of that trade are that the Rays got exactly what they wanted, but did the Marlins get exactly what they want in Jesus? And again, the very early impression, he started his major league career 1 of 25 at the plate with a lot of strikeouts. But I think it was already apparent in that small sample and really going back to spring training that his power potential is excellent. Some of the things he does, a lot of the little things he does, the athleticism he has, and the potential for him to be a really well-rounded everyday outfielder is apparent. He's a tricky guy. I mean, I know that for some of you, he probably would have been a lot further down your board just because statistically he's not really impressed at the higher minor league levels. And obviously in the small major league sample, that scares you a little bit when that track record isn't quite there. But for me, for someone that was a lot younger than his competition every single step of the way, and for someone that has all these tools, has this really strong build, a beautiful, vicious left-handed swing that I think he's someone that could really establish himself quickly, someone that could end up being the best outfielder in this organization that has a zillion different outfielders. I feel everybody outside of Bleday, for me, Jesus is number 2 in terms of the outfielder that I really trust to break out pretty soon and establish himself in this very crowded outfield situation in the Marlins organization. So he's my 4th round pick at number 10 overall. Going back to Daniel here in the 4th round. Who do you got?
Okay. I think it's time to take care of the of the catching situation. I think that's important. The Marlins are extremely thin at catcher. So with that in mind, I am Colombian, so let's go with Alfaro. I just couldn't let him go anywhere else. Amazing arm, amazing power. He is currently a big debate within Marlins fans. He should have shown more by now, but the tools are there. He needs to find it. I hope and believe that he will. So yeah, I feel he's ready. He's ready to get to that next level next year. And so with my 4th pick, I'm going with Jorge Alfaro, catcher.
I mean, the way that last season ended, I think there's a lot of people overreacting to it. And I can hear it in your voice that it was painful for you to watch the fact that he simply was like a non-factor in the postseason. behind, I mean, of all people, Chad Wallach. I mean, nobody could have seen that coming like a year ago or a year prior to that. But it was a small sample. And I mean, from where he was, even like in the middle of September, he was in a pretty promising place. Walk-off hits, one of the leading run producers in the lineup. Yeah, I'm someone that's been relatively low on Alfaro almost every step of the way, and I haven't lost hope. The opportunity is going to be there. You can say that at least.
Yeah. Well, catching is a really tough position, and COVID. I mean, he got COVID. He missed a lot of time. He came back. Don't want to throw any excuses out there, but come on, man, give him a shot.
All right, here with the number 12 overall pick in the 4th round. Back to Alex. Who's your pick?
Yeah, so I gotta go the same route here. I already don't have my first baseman. You guys pretty much have both guys that, that I would have taken as a first baseman. So I don't know where I'm going to go with that. We're going to have to get creative here later in the draft, but I'm going to take care of catcher too. And I'm going to go with the guy that is, our top, minor league catcher, probably the only guy we have in our top, maybe Daniel, you could answer this better than me, maybe 40 or 50 players. And, just because of the thinness of the position, I'm going to go Will Banfield. Will Banfield, we know his reputation defensively, even though he did struggle defensively last year, taking out base runners in Clinton. But I think that'll fix itself. This guy's got pop times that are ridiculous. The arm speaks for itself. I think that was just a bad moment for him in his first full minor league season. So I think that's going to fix itself. The bat is the question mark for sure. And, obviously none of us could go to Instructs. Eli knows that. Daniel, you know that as well, that none of us were able to go to Instructs, but every report we got out of Instructs here at the end of the season is that this guy is really starting to turn the corner with the bat. Hopefully that holds true. I can't tell you that from my own eyes. I hope that's true. Because this guy definitely has the defensive ability to really succeed as a catcher. So, I go Banfield here basically off the thinness of the position, but also based off of those reports I've heard out of Instruct. So hopefully Banfield gets it done.
Yeah. I'll waste no time right here. 5th rounds, my first pick. You guys already took your right-handed pitchers, and here's mine. One of the faces of the organization, Sandy Alcantara, who was he's another guy that continues to surprise me every single step of the way. I remember a year and a half ago, that's where we were 18 months ago, like Memorial Day 2019, I thought he should get sent back down to AAA. He was in that situation. I did not trust him to ever consistently throw strikes. He was someone that pretty deep into his all-star caliber 2019 campaign, he was inconsistent. And almost from that point forward, he's been excellent. He really flipped the switch. Just a unique pitcher, a guy that has high-end velocity and also high-end movement on his sinker, who has really quality secondaries with his changeup and with his slider. And his work ethic is amazing. The transformation that he's made physically from when he was first called up in 2018, the strength that he has put on, I could swear that he's even gotten a little bit taller since he was first called up to the majors, even though I don't think that's possible for someone that's now at this point 25 years old. But this past season, an ERA of 3 flat, and the peripherals are getting a lot closer than they used to be in terms of justifying the legitimacy of that. But his stuff is there, and his mechanics have been so much more consistent. He obviously this year in particular developed a pretty good rapport with Chad Wallach, but I feel like the things he's doing can work with a lot of different battery mates. So he's just been so impressive, even off the field as well, and someone that you really admire. He's in real life, he's under Marlins control for the next 4 years. I don't know what things look like with an extension for him, but he's someone that could legitimately be a starting pitcher for the next 10 years. His track record of being healthy is pretty impressive as well. Whatever you put into that, I mean, predicting pitcher health is foolish for anybody to try, but he's been so impressive in numerous ways, and the ace of this rotation at the moment. And honestly, I have the pick of like any right-hander left if I wanted to, but he's the one I'm going with. I think he's a really safe bet, and I think he could get even better than he's shown us so far.
I love his attitude. You know, he just came out and started talking smack, saying I'm going to you know, these guys, Yankees have never seen me pitch. They don't know what's coming. I love that. That's ace material. By the way, I thought you were going Pablo. You love Pablo, don't you?
I had them back to back on my rankings here, and I really thought it over. And I put on my overall rankings, I put Sandy just one spot ahead of Pablo. I mean, again, for what it's worth, the durability, the fact that Pablo 2018, 2019, both years, shoulder issues. And technically, he's still available to us as a wild card if anybody chooses to go that direction. He's
True.
one of my personal favorite players on the team. And of course, for this year, he was the most important pitcher because he was healthy the whole year. But yeah, it's close. I mean, the 1-2 for this rotation right now, it stacks up pretty well with any other team in the majors.
That's right. Well, for my next pick, number 5, I'm going with talking about attitude. My first outfielder, Monte Harrison. I would say most athletic guy in our organization. He has the speed. He has the attitude, as I said. He has the fielding. He has the power. He just needs to tap into that hit tool. And with his attitude and the way he talks, everything he says, he's going to find it. He's going to be a really important part of our future. He didn't look good at the plate this season, but there's a lot to develop, and we have some great coaches who can help him develop. So I think he's got it all for, you know, to be a really important part of our organization for the next 10 years. So yes, for my next pick, outfielder Monte Harrison.
Yeah, he's another guy just like Jazz, where the personality is infectious, the confidence is so apparent, and yeah, some of the most like unbelievable individual moments of athleticism that you've seen from him, even just as a base runner. The way he's made base running so fascinating, even in this day and age where you just don't see stolen base attempts that much from anybody. The fact that he was put into that role and he was able to. There was that one pretty notable mistake, I guess, when he made one of the last outs of the game late in the regular
against
season.
The Braves.
Yeah, that one really sticks out. I remember that one. But he's not discouraged one bit by that. So
no. I think it was the correct play, man. I mean, 1 out, right?
Yeah.
There was 1 out and 2 outs at that exact moment, but he had it. It was a perfect throw, perfect tag, perfect everything by the Braves. I mean, you just tip your hat.
Here in the 5th round, number 15 overall, we are back to Alex Carver. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I'm also going to go outfielder for my first outfielder as well, along with Daniel. And I have a pick between two guys who I absolutely adore. Both pretty new to the organization. But the one I'm going to go with here is another member of that absolutely beautiful 2019 draft class. I'm going to go with Peyton Burdick. Peyton Burdick for me is a guy who, you know, he comes to the Marlins out of that draft. He's a 3rd rounder and he signs for next to nothing. I mean, he's coming out of, you know, not a small school, but not a huge school, but, you know, definitely could have demanded more money. But for me, it just says this guy loves to play baseball. He wants to be here. He wants to be, you know, a member of this organization. He believes in what's going on here. And he wanted to sign here and we got him. And it's a great money save for the Marlins that they used elsewhere in that draft. Fantastic work by the entire team that went into that draft. That's first of all. According to his skill set, I'll keep it brief here. One of the most beautiful swings in the organization next to JJ Bleday. And plus arm, probably could play both corner spots. You know, got great versatility there. And when you see this guy swing, man, I saw it in spring training. You guys probably did too. It speaks for itself. So the ball absolutely flies. I love him. I cannot wait till he gets here. I have every single one of his baseball cards right now up until this point in his career. And I don't plan to stop on collecting them because I think he's really going to take off. So Burdick for me here.
Yeah. He cannot literally do more to impress everybody. He's impressed everybody. everybody within the organization, the evaluators out from other teams. I mean, just as we're recording this is the same day that Baseball America put out its rundown of 19 players across 19 prospects that really impressed during instructionals across the league. And he's near the top of that list, a guy that is as physically strong as any prospect in the organization and has reportedly gotten even stronger. And just the fact that, for one thing, I mean, in 2019, playing at a relatively low level against a lot of competition that was even younger than he was, but then here in Instructs this past fall, alongside all the top prospects in both the Marlins organization and in playing games against the Nationals prospects, and he apparently leapt off them. He really made a powerful impression on everybody there, and it's the performance. All he can do is perform, even as a guy that is has some of those red flags just in terms of his age and in terms of being a right-handed hitter and not a left-handed hitter, and being probably a corner outfielder and not a really versatile one. That if you just mash the ball, then you're gonna be pretty great eventually down the road. So you can't go wrong with him. Moving on to the 6th round, I'm gonna go pretty old. Speaking of age, I'm gonna go much older than you guys with this pick. My second baseman. Yeah, and I could put this guy at a lot of different positions, but second base is the one we know him at best, Jon Berti, who came out of nowhere with the Marlins a year and a half ago, signed as a minor league free agent, got a first taste of the majors with them in like early 2019 and didn't even stick, suffered an injury, came back up in the midway point of the 2019 season. And ever since then, he's been one of the best players on the team. He's 30 years old at this point. I think he's going to be 31 next year. And so I understand that he's probably not going to be the same type of player 10 years from now that he is right now, not when he's 40 years old. But for the time being, he is, I don't think there is a better base runner in Major League Baseball right now than Jon Berti. There are individual games that stick out, of course, stealing 3 bases in a row against the Mets this past summer, including stealing home, even when he lost his footing. The success rate that he has as a base stealer, the aggressiveness that he has, and of course, also on balls in play, taking extra bases, and his ability to get on base in the first place. He has the highest on base percentage of any Marlins player during this rebuild. He's been getting on base 36% of the time. And that's a guy that is moving forward. I don't think they have him penciled in as the everyday second baseman, but they're going to be starting him pretty close to every day if he keeps this up, because he is he's producing. He's hitting for a little bit more power than we could have thought. And that combined with the fact that he knows the strike zone and that the way that he moves at an elite level, it makes him a really valuable player. And even though I don't know exactly how that kind of player will age, he does more than just one thing. And I think that's a perception that he's still fighting against. That he's more than just that underdog speedster. He is a pretty valuable player. And it's going to be fascinating in real life to see what the Marlins do with him, because he's someone that a lot of teams are going to have serious interest in building around. And we'll see exactly what his playing time looks like. But came out of nowhere, just a great find. I mean, above all else, tip of the cap to the Marlins for finding him on a minor league deal in the first place, because this is the kind of value that it's very hard to get when every team is supposed to be on the lookout for these diamonds in the rough. Moving on, here it's number 17 overall here in the 6th round. Back to Daniel.
I'm going to stick with second base. Yeah. Let's stick with the second base and let's go with Isan Diaz. Well, I'm also sticking with power. So I have Alfaro, Lewin Diaz, Isan Diaz, and Monte Harrison. So that's power and pitching on my team right now. Isan, well, you all know the story of last season. He was not one of the infected with COVID guys, but it really got to him, and he opted out, but decided to come back, and after a game got injured. So not his not the season he had in mind. But just like I've said with the other players, the tools are there. He killed it in the minors. He hasn't started his major league career as he would have wished, but this guy's amazing in a position where power is not, its most predominant attribute. He is, I think, is really good for the Marlins, and I definitely see a good future for him. So yeah, Isan Diaz, second base.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little worried about Isan just because it was a small sample of him in like 2019, but also not like tiny. It was long enough that I got pretty turned off by that. I thought 2020 was going to be a really important year, and of course, as you said, for some reasons in his control, and then of course the injury at the end, which was out of his control. Yeah, we just didn't get an opportunity to see any of the adjustments that he made. So yeah, I understand that. Of course, I mean, he's still a guy that is so young, and the team invested quite a bit to get him, being that he was part of the Yelich trade, and that uh, I think even same with Monte, and even with someone like Jordan Yamamoto, those are guys that I think they're going to be more patient with than you might expect, just because uh, they want to give them every chance to contribute, and before turning on to somebody else at those positions. Yeah, I hope for the best for him because his swing is gorgeous when he has it on. Those remember all those comparisons to Robinson Cano that I guess haven't aged all that well in the light of recent news, but he's in terms of the actual ability itself. Yeah, he's that type of player. Uh, Alex, back to you here in the sixth round.
So an interesting case for me here, based off what I need here in the draft, right? I still need my first baseman. I still need some middle infield. I still need a third baseman. So, and now the draft's what, seventh round or sixth round, I should say. So what do I go with? Based off everything the Marlins have coming in the middle infield, I'm going to forego my first baseman because none of you other guys are going to take the guy that I'm thinking of getting later on. So here I'm going to go with another outfielder, and I'd be remiss if I didn't get this guy because I grew up idolizing his father. You guys know who I'm talking about. I'm getting Griffin Conine. I'm taking Griffin here as my second outfielder to fill very likely what's going to be the left field spot for him. Maybe right field, probably left field with all we have in the outfield here with the Marlins, Blade, Burdick, and others. So yeah, Conine for me here. And for me, there's a reason why the Marlins went and got this guy. They targeted him in his draft year. The Blue Jays got him literally one pick before the Marlins picked. You guys remember that. So yeah, the Marlins had a target on him. They did draft him out of high school. He decided to go to Duke. And then the Blue Jays got him one pick ahead of us. So obviously Hill and the Marlins wanted him. So the Marlins go and get him. And, he did go through the suspension for steroids, but then he came back and just kept raking. Just went off last year after he got back from the suspension. Beautiful swing. He's obviously got the, reputation behind him. He's got the upbringing behind him to do everything that he needs to do because you weren't going to find a harder worker than Jeff Conine, his father. So I'm getting Griffin here, and I got one outfielder left to go. So, yeah, Griffin Conine for me here.
Yeah, we have reached the halfway point of this draft, going 12 rounds. So we're through 6 at this point. Taking this opportunity to just review where we're at. Alex, you got Jazz Chisholm, Max Meyer, Daxton Fulton, Will Banfield, Peyton Burdick, Mr. Marlin Jr., and Daniel has Sixto Sanchez, Lewin Diaz, Trevor Rogers, Jorge Alfaro, Monte Harrison, Isan Diaz. I have JJ Bleday, Brian Anderson, Garrett Cooper, Jesus Sanchez, Sandy Alcantara, John Birdie. So Alex, in the second half of the draft, still needs a first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, one outfielder, a DH, and a wild card. Daniel, you'll need a shortstop, third baseman, 2 outfielders, a DH, and a wild card. And I will need a shortstop, an outfielder, a DH, a left-hander, a catcher, and a wild card. And I'm going to take this opportunity I'm going to fill out my outfield right here to join Bleday and Sanchez, another highly regarded prospect, outfielder Gerard Encarnacion, 23 years old, someone that had a big breakout year in 2019. He led all Marlins minor leaguers. This is off the top of my head. I think he led Marlins minor leaguers in games played, in plate appearances, in RBIs, and in something else, outfield assists. I think he had 18 outfield assists in 2019. He also had about as many errors in the outfield, so it's kind of a questionable decision to put him in. In this, all intents and purposes, is probably a right fielder if he does play defensively. I guess a lot of people, myself included, believe his best position is DH. I'm going to save my DH for later and trust Gerard to not hurt us too bad in that position, to let his arm do all the talking, because he has a powerful cannon of an arm. He has a powerful bat as well. We finally got to see little glimpses of it in Clinton, in Jupiter, and then even more so in the Arizona Fall League. He had one of the longest home runs of the entire AFL last year in 2019. What ended up being, I believe that was the game-winning grand slam in the championship game against Sterling Sharp, former Marlin. And in spring training, he had a couple big home runs as well, including ones at the opposite field. He's built. He really is. Some people within the Marlins organization have compared him to Stanton. Of course, people within the Marlins organization are biased, and they're kind of prone to have really outlandish comparisons. To me, I just compare him a lot to Garrett Cooper. He's the same type of build, the same type of ability to go to all fields, and enough understanding of the strike zone to actually put the ball in play a lot and to get himself into favorable accounts. He's not a guy that is going to give away that many at-bats chasing outside the zone. So to me, I think his best case scenario, I guess, is hopefully someone that could be one of the league's home run leaders. To me, I think a perfectly good outcome for him is just being the next Garrett Cooper, except one that gets to the big leagues a lot earlier. He just turned 23 years old and just got added to the 40-man roster. Similar timeline as someone like JJ Bleday. You could see him up in the majors by the end of 2021, and he could spend most of the next decade in the majors. Whether he's not an everyday player, I think he could be a Garrett Cooper on the high end, maybe a Mark Trumbo, someone like that, at least offensively. You can't really, not everybody is going to be perfectly well-rounded. He certainly isn't, but he's going to help them win a lot of games, in my opinion, as long as he stays healthy. He's a whole lot of fun to watch.
Solid pick. I am also continuing outfielder. Also from that 2019 amazing outfielder crop. We had Bleday, we had Burdick, and we also had Cameron Meisner. He looks really, really good. He is he's just toolsy, he has the power, he has the speed, he's an intelligent runner. A lot of different platforms say he's a 2020 threat. I believe it. He is comfortable in center field, really good defensive guy. I even heard he can even play first base, but that's just rumors. Solid arm, solid hit tool. Just, I really see him as a real 5-tool threat. He just has to show it. He does have those tools. Baseball America actually said that if he would have had a better spring before the draft, he would have gone top 5. He's like the other side of JJ Bleday. Bleday had an amazing spring and went from late first round to early first round, whereas Meisner, he didn't. And it said that it was simply approach, something that can easily be fixed. So I 100% believe in what he can bring. He's got the tools, and he's really good, guys.
Yeah, I probably, if I was actually building a functioning team out of all these guys, I guess he'd make more sense, considering I don't really have a center fielder, and for him, at least at this point in his career, he's got a decent chance of sticking there. So I could see that working. And yeah, Bleday is the one from that draft that gets all the press, but in terms of tools alone, I don't think it'd be all that shocking if Meisner turned out to be the best player from that 2019 draft class that the Marlins got. It's not always so easy to predict this kind of stuff. And he's someone that was on a great trajectory until that weird slump in the middle of his junior year. So yeah, that's another good pick right there. A few more seconds if you need it, Alex, here in the 7th round.
Yeah, so it's an interesting go for me here. We have what we have at shortstop, and I think a lot of it's going to move around. So I'm going to draft this guy as a shortstop, expecting him to move to third base. And I'm going to go here with another kid. I love my kids. You guys know that. So I'm going to go drafting him at third base. I'm going to go Jose Salas. Jose Salas, 17-year-old kid. Folks, go watch his Instagram videos. That'll show you all you need to know. I mean, I don't care if it's batting practice. If you're swinging the bat like that at 17 years old, you're going to move to a power position, especially with what the Marlins have long-term at shortstop. So I think Salas here, for me, he's going to fill into his body advantageously. He's going to put on even more muscle. He's already showing the potential for like 20 homer power, and I think that could grow even more than that. So Salas, a guy that mixes speed and strength, good bat speed. I mean, he's already strong even in his 17-year-old lanky body, and he's going to grow into even more. Got to see him play like a lot of these guys that I'm drafting, but I really like the peripherals. I like where they can go. So that's where I'm going here. Third baseman, Jose Salas.
Yeah, he was pretty high up on my board too. I still need a shortstop, and yeah, that's what I'm going to take right now. Really going down to the wire between two very different types of players. And I think I have to go with Jose Devers here in the 8th round as my shortstop. It was between him and the captain, Miguel Rojas. But if we're being honest, I mean, Miggy is 32 years old. He's coming off a career year. I don't want to go too far in on him if one of you guys end up taking him as a shortstop or a wild card or whatever. But I think at this, being 32 years old, I don't think it's really in the best interest of this exercise when you're building a team for the next 10 years. I might as well go with Jose Devers, who is on the opposite ends of the spectrum. As we're recording this, he is still 20 years old. He's about to turn 21. Just like Gerard, good friends with Gerard. I mean, they're teammates in winter ball. They played alongside each other a little bit in the minor leagues as well. And Devers came over, of course, from the Yankees organization in the Giancarlo Stanton trade. And at that point, he was definitely second billing behind George Guzman in terms of prospect pedigree at that point. Devers was almost an unknown commodity besides the fact that he was Rafael Devers' cousin. There wasn't a whole lot to him besides that. Much different type of player than his cousin. I mean, if he turns out being as productive overall, that's a huge success. But he's a smaller built guy, someone who has a lot more to offer defensively at either second base or at shortstop. And he's just, I'd say, probably been unexpectedly a really good hitter in minor league games with Greensboro when they were their low A affiliate. And then, of course, moving up to Jupiter, where he was a Florida State League All-Star, if I'm not mistaken. He's had some nagging injuries, make you worry a little bit. But at his age and with his frame, he's still got room to fill out a little bit. And hopefully that will help mitigate some of these injuries that have cost him a lot of playing time to this point. And it's really unusual for someone to make it to the 40-man roster and with so little actual minor league experience. He's played less than 200 games in his pro career. So there are some red flags here. And there are some other interesting shortstops in this organization to consider, kind of in the same range. But I'm going with the guy that is not that far away from being in the majors, and his ceiling limited at this point by the fact that he hasn't hit for power whatsoever. But I'm banking on the work ethic of him filling out a little bit and just the basic foundation he has as a player in terms of what he does defensively and in terms of his bat to ball skills. I think at the very least, he's going to be a somebody. He might not be a guy. He might not be a cornerstone, but he's going to be something of significance at the major league level. And that's at this point, this late in the draft, at this premium position, I'm satisfied with that.
The best thing about this for this organization, real quick, Eli, is that how many of these guys do we have at that spot? Obviously, yes, they can move around. I got Salas as a third baseman. I think he's going to stick. I think he's definitely going to move. But how great is it to have this problem that we have all of these guys that can play shortstop? They can't all stay here. Then you got the situation with Isan. So it's going to be something to follow as this rebuild fills out. What do they do with this middle infield? It's going to be great.
Yeah, they still have, just to drop a couple names that probably won't get drafted here, but we'll see. Nasim Nunez and Osiris-Johnson coming off a pretty significant injury for him. But before that, someone that had incredible offensive potential. And I mean, we'll see what they do this coming winter. And January 15th, the new international signing period opens, and he's not eligible for this, but Yiddy Cape, the Cuban shortstop that they've been linked to for a couple of years now, is eventually going to become a Marlin as well. And he's someone that has a lot of fascinating tools and projectability too. So yeah, they have, I mean, forcibly, some of these guys are going to move off a shortstop, but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, well, Eli, you mentioned my next pick. At shortstop, also from that 2019 draft, Nasim Nunez, man, this is gold glove upside. Amazing personality. How great he'll be, how great he'll end up being depends 100% on his bat, because his fielding is there. His, plus arm and plus run. He stole like 30 bases or something. It was crazy. And he has that. I mean, that's ready. The bat has contact skill, but it just needs to develop a bit more pop. Hopefully he'll grow into it. You do see him, a few videos of him pumping some iron. So the kid looks great. I love having him here as shortstop, especially with all this, power I built up here on my team. It's good to have a solid defense guy there. I would say he may be the best defensive infielder in the system, but it's true that Devers is also pretty amazing. So yeah, this is my guy at shortstop.
Yeah, it's another. We've seen this now, and I'm kind of staying away from this type of player in general. The ones that have almost no like minor league experience or haven't played full season ball yet. You guys are pretty fearless about it, about going with these guys and just trusting what you see and what the other evaluators are saying. And yeah, I respect that. How it's
he's my only one. Maybe Meisner, but Nasim is my only guy who's like that. It's Alex who you can see heavily prospect guy, and I mean we have an amazing system, so can't blame him.
Yeah, some of the stats that Nasim put up in the GCL were just ridiculous. The stolen base frequency, the fact that he was stealing almost every single time he got on base, and the success rate was off the charts. And that team, I think they won the Gulf Coast League championship that year as well. It got the shortened season, but they were competing hard out there, even though it was just rookie ball. And yeah, he's a fun guy, and he's a good follow on Instagram as well. A lot of these players are good follows on Instagram that I recommend. But yeah, here number 24 overall pick. We're almost 2/3 of the way through the draft, going back to Alex Carver.
All right, guys, let's get first baseman out of the way for me. I probably could have got this guy a little later, but I think I have a safe bet picking him here. It's a deep dive here at first base after the first two guys that we have, of course. It's tough because when you have, a lot at each corner, but not a lot at both corners, like the Marlins have a little bit of third base depth, especially with what they can move there and Salas and other guys. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go with a guy who really impressed me with his work ethic, especially with what he was doing during the offseason. I'm going to go Nick Reddy. Nick Reddy, another guy with the pedigree for me. Pedigree from Randy Reddy, who used to actually coach the Jupiter Hammerheads for a small time. Great family, good baseball family. So he grew up with it, right? Much like Conine, who I picked earlier. Grew up with baseball, grew up around a guy who was doing it for a living. So I always love to see that in a prospect. For Nick himself, the swing and miss is massive. That is something he will need to definitely tone down. But watching him in early spring training, I saw him play in a couple of intra-squad games, I believe against the national system. I think I saw him play against the Houston system as well. He lines the ball up well. And as long as he's not getting out in front, as long as he makes contact, it's a guy that can make the ball fly. So in a very limited position, it's a guy who I think has a very good ceiling. I'm going to go Nick Reddy here with the hopes that he moves to first base. So Nick Reddy here.
All right. Moving on to round number 9, 25th overall pick. I'm going to use my wild card here. At this point, I think a lot of my picks the rest of the way are safe just because of the way we've gone about it. But my wild card pick is unapologetically one of my favorite players on the team, one of my favorite players in the league right now. It's not Harold Ramirez. I think his stock is down too much to justify drafting him, but I'm going to double down on right-handed pitchers and pick Pablo Lopez as my wild card. I can't imagine a team without him. He's a perfect ambassador for Marlins baseball at this time, and never more so than coming off this 2020 season that he had. I was high on him entering the year. I thought he was could be the ace of the staff. And as I mentioned earlier, that's kind of debatable with what Sandy did this year as well, but they're almost co-aces at this point. Pablo putting together a full year, although I'll bet it was a shortened season, but he even got his first chance at pitching in the postseason out of the way. Only 24 years old. He's going to be turning 25 heading into spring training next year, and he is just a really well-rounded pitcher, a guy that has, since the Marlins acquired him in the heist of a trade from the Seattle Mariners and that David Phelps deal, he's been just consistently getting better when at least when he's been healthy, adding fastball velo, mastering that changeup, a legitimate plus pitch that he's been able to get a lot of swing and miss out of, and the way that he attacks the strike zone, getting himself in favorable counts, that he's really set himself up moving forward, I think, to be a sustainable, really effective pitcher for years and years to come. I mentioned even before my concerns about the durability. He has missed some time with shoulder issues. This 2021 season is going to be a very big test for him because not that far behind him in this organization. You guys have already picked some of these guys with Sixto Sanchez, Max Meyer, and Trevor Rogers. If you slip up, if you have one off year, if you have one off like half a season, then all of a sudden you plunge down the depth chart or you get relegated to the bullpen. That even as impressive as he was in 2020, this stuff can change in an eye blink, especially for pitchers. But Pablo put so much thought into the way that he pitches and in his preparation to pitch. He really took advantage of that COVID hiatus to rethink how he wants to attack opponents. And we saw that in the results. I mean, he was very briefly in the fringe of the Cy Young competition. I don't see him ever really winning the award, but he's someone that I think could be an all-star multiple times during this upcoming decade. And I think that's all you want. So it's especially with this particular team I put together, there are some questions about the defensive fit at a number of positions. I want guys that limit their walks, guys that can generate a lot of ground balls. That was a big step forward that he took this year as well. That, he could get you out in a lot of ways, and I really trust him moving forward.
And just a point here on Pablo for me, Eli. You can't find a better person, right, in the entire organization than Pablo Lopez. Like, as we're recording this today, you see him out at the Marlins, Marlins Impact Turkey Drive that they did today. And of course, he's one of the guys there handing out meals to people that are in need, along with Jeter and Sherman and the like. So can't find a nicer guy. And as you alluded to, probably the smartest guy in the organization, which just, goes towards what you mentioned with his headiness to pitch. So, I mean, the former doctor, or the would-be doctor, I should say, if not for baseball. So can't ask for much more out of a person than Pablo. So love him.
He was so important to our team last season. Without him, forget about playoffs. He kept us alive at a time where, everything really seemed grim. So, solid pick. For my next pick, I am going to grab a guy who is I'm going to call it here, put in some bells or something. This guy is going to explode next year. This guy's going to be a top 100 pick by the end of the year. Just write it down, all right? Connor Scott, outfielder Connor Scott. He is a 5-tool threat as well. He has started his professional career slow. I feel like he has been challenged aggressively by Marlins front office. As soon as he got drafted, they sent him to low A. Last season he was in low A and they challenged him again to go to high A. He started low A kind of mediocre, but kind of found his stride in really, really hard high A Florida State League. I'm really confident that this guy, I mean, he found something, and that he's next season he's going to show what he's made of. He has the power, he has the speed, he has the defense, arm, etc. So I'm really confident on what he can do. So yeah, he's my third outfielder, Connor Scott.
Yeah, another guy that I mean, frankly, I watched him a little bit during the middle of the 2019 season. I think I caught him on a great time where, even though the numbers at no point really, like statistically, there was never that fiery hot stretch, but just the quality of his at bats against much older competition right before he got promoted up to Jupiter, it really wowed me. And also defensively, for a guy that isn't very graceful, that it's not sexy the way that that he goes about things, but I don't think it matters. I think he can really make all the plays out there. So he's and someone that is still super duper young, and there's so much potential to unlock right there. Yeah, a couple more seconds if you want to use it, Alex, as we get here at the 27th overall pick of this draft.
Yeah, so let's round out the outfield here for me. I obviously have Burdick and Conine, but who plays center field in the middle of them? For me here, I'm going with one of the two brothers. And which one is it going to be? There's a lot of hate out on Victor because of what he did in Jupiter last year. I think that's not the guy you're going to see going forward. Love Victor Jr. He's got much farther of a way to go. So if we're talking about the next 10 years here for the process of your exercise, Eli, I'm going with Victor Mesa. Obviously, we spent what we spent on him for a reason, right? This guy wasn't scouted to come in and go to Jupiter and do what he did and then just come into next year and flop again. No, this guy's going to turn it around. You see him on his social media. He's putting in cage work. He's improving his swing. I really think he's improved his swing path most of all from what I see in his videos in Jupiter last year to what he's doing now. Swing plane looks great. It's got more uppercut to it. I think he's going to come by more power. Swing and miss needs work, yes. But all that said, I think this is a guy that's going to come back with a vengeance next year next minor league season. And we're really going to see him pop. So yeah, Victor Mesa for me right here.
I go back and forth on him. There are times where I was one of his strongest supporters, like midway through that season, because I thought, the floor was pretty high with what he was doing as a defender and as a base runner. But I mean, the quality of contact was, I don't want to use too strong a word, but it was discouraging. It was very discouraging that whatever he was doing, it wasn't working during 2019. So it's been so long though. I mean, who knows exactly what adjustments he's been making with that. It was somewhat of a divisive guy, a mysterious guy before they signed him. But I mean, the best case scenario with him is pretty tantalizing as well. And even as a guy that is much older than his brother, he's really not that old to begin with, about 24 years old as of this moment. There's still plenty of time and opportunity for him to figure it out. We are 3/4 of the way through the draft. So now at this point, we're just like trying to fill things out with Team Alex. All he's going to need in these final 3 rounds are a second baseman, a DH, and a wild card. Team Daniel is going to be looking for a third baseman, a DH, and a wild card. And I'm going to be looking for a catcher, a DH, and a left-handed pitcher. I'm going to start with a lefty here to begin round 10. We've mentioned him a couple times already. It is Braxton Garrett, the former first-round draft pick, recently debuted in the majors during the shortened season. He has a lot of these basics that you love about him. I mean, it starts really with that curveball, that plus curveball that has a beautiful shape to it, that has such a big separation with his fastball, even though the fact that he doesn't get all that much velo on the fastball to begin with, especially I think it was one of you that was a little concerned with what we saw from him in his 2 major league starts, because the velo was probably even lower than advertised. There were some innings where he was struggling to even reach 90 on that pitch. And there's only so far you can go without pinpoint commands. That's something that he still needs to show in that department, is being more consistent with the way he attacks the zone and getting into more favorable counts. But I mean, all things considered, going back to 2019, that first year off of Tommy John was pretty encouraging with what he did against mostly older competition, shaking off the rust. Um, the way he was missing bats, not just with his curveball, but little strides forward that he's taking with the changeup as well. That's going to make or break whether he's really a starter, is whether that changeup comes along with, and also, of course, whether that command comes along. He'll probably need all of that, especially if the fastball velo doesn't fully come back to what it was pre-surgery. So it's still wait and see mode with him. Frankly, a lot of the lefties in this organization, once we get past Rogers, there's a lot of questions about the lefties in this organization. So much pitching depth, but a lot of the high-end guys are righty. But I still believe in Braxton Garrett. He puts in a lot of work. I think the further that he gets away from that surgery and the closer that he gets to kind of a normal season, he hasn't really had a normal season since turning pro. I mean, some bad luck with the injuries. And now, of course, with COVID, like this was supposed to be a very important year for him to build up and to focus on development. And he was able to focus on development for most of the summer. And then by necessity, with all those double headers at the major league level to make up for those COVID postponements, he was rushed into action. And he showed me enough during those couple starts to believe that there's still some decent upside with him. And I trust the person in him. And I trust the fact that he's still so young. With almost all these players, they have such a long future ahead of them. So I think he's going to steadily get better and better from what he saw in this first taste of the big leagues, his first cup of coffee. Moving on to Team Daniel here in the 10th round, the second pick of the 10th round. Go ahead.
I need to do something about that third base position. That one's hard. There's not a lot of depth. Anderson was the obvious one. You took him from me, Eli. Jose Salas, I love him. Probably moving that to third base. Alex got him. So I have a few options here. I mean, not real third base options because, again, we're just not deep. Joe Dunand, even though he hit a home run last night in the Dominican.
He did. I found actually the post-game interview that he did after that. He was elated. He was lighting up.
Really?
There are people talking trash about his uncle Alex Rodriguez, who you've heard of. Now, A-Rod never hit a home run in the Dominican Winter League. He had a lot of fun out there. So I'm happy for him, but I understand why he's probably not top of mind for you.
Yeah, not right now. Hopefully he doesn't get too hot. Maybe somebody will grab him the Rule 5. I don't think so, but he went unprotected. And so with that in mind, I'm going to just, reach into that shortstop depth that we have. And this is a guy who we haven't seen much of because of an injury. And obviously then COVID. So nothing 2019, nothing 2020, but he is definitely a guy we need to keep an eye on. Osiris-Johnson. I do see him moving to a third base in the future, or maybe to a second base, but I'm thinking third. He did miss all of 2019 with, because of surgery. Elite bat speed. Definitely a 20 home run caliber guy. The power is there. I remember Baseball America said he has the best power in the 2018 Marlins class, and I definitely agree with that statement. So a bit of a risk, but I do believe that this guy has what it takes to make it. Let's see how he comes back next year. I've heard good things about instructional, and he's part of that group of that buddies with Nassim, and so So yeah, I like that third base shortstop team I put up there.
Yeah, Osiris was one of the youngest players in that entire draft class.
That's right.
Um, I think he was still 17 when they picked him. And
Yep.
Yeah, which does give me that, calm. Lets me be optimistic about him missing that full season. He has a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, continuing here in the 10th round, back to Alex.
Quick comment on Osiris, which I was thinking of going here for my pick, but obviously it's taken away. I definitely think he moves to third, possibly second, which is where I was going to go with my pick, but very likely third. Great hands, good arm, and 20 years old. So you can't go wrong. Obviously, I think he went through Tommy John, actually. So you got to watch out for that with the arm speed moving to third base. But that being said, I think it's a good pick for Daniel. Anyways, going to my pick here, I need second base. So I'm also drawing from that plethora of shortstop talent. And I'm going with an all Bahamian middle infield here, guys. Okay. With shortstop Josh Chisholm
Nice.
and second base Ian Lewis. Ian Lewis from the same draft class as another pick of mine, Jose Salas. If you read some of the reports that are out on Ian, he comps right now to our old friend D. Gordon. And how could you go wrong with that, right? You got the speed, you got the hands, you got the arm, everything that you need. So I definitely think Ian Lewis is another guy who's a bit far away. Probably won't see him for maybe another 3, possibly 4 years. But a guy who obviously the Marlins had an eye on there in the international draft, in the same class, as we said, with other standouts. So, yeah, I think Fernando Seguinal, who headed that international draft, did an amazing job. I believe in every single one of those kids from that international draft, some of which we haven't named, some of which we have. So, love Ian. I think he's going to stand out next year. I think he's really going to show it. So, I think he moves off of shortstop to go to second base, but everything you need at second base. So, love the D. Gordon comp too. So, yeah, Ian Lewis for me there.
He was a participant. I think the youngest guy that was in this like New Year's home run derby that they had in the Bahamas that they do every year. It was early January. He was there with Jazz and with Monte, and Lewis Brinson won that event. But Ian put on a good show. I think he had a handful of home runs into the ocean, and that impressed me for a guy that still has a lot of. Even if he's just a second baseman, he's going to put on quite a bit of weight on that frame based on where he is now. Still infinite possibilities with him, whether he stays as a D Gordon type or bulks up a little bit and turns into somewhat of a hybrid kind of guy. Final 2 rounds that we're heading into. Alex is going to be looking for a DH and wild card. Daniel is going to be looking for his DH and a wild card. I'm going to be looking for my DH and my catcher. Here in round number 11, I'm going to start with my designated hitter, someone that probably didn't even come to mind for you guys. His stock is down quite a bit coming off the 2020 season. Corey Dickerson, who has 1 more year left on his contract with the Marlins. He's going to be the second highest paid player on the Marlins this year. And he was tough to watch this past season. I think, at least in my opinion, it was a really good value that they got him at as a free agent, 2 years, $17.5 million. And he very quietly was one of the better hitting outfielders in the majors for the last half decade with the Rockies, with Tampa Bay, with Pittsburgh as well. And I guess the most clear thing that we saw in watching him every single day is that the defensive reputation was misleading. He was a guy that won a Gold Glove with the Pirates in 2018, but from watching him every day, it was a struggle out there. A lot of routine plays that didn't work. So I'm downplaying those concerns by shifting him to DH, and realistically, given where he is in his career, that's what he would have to be for this team. He's 31 years old, turns 32 early next year. But for guys like him, that if you look at his career overall, someone that is consistently 20%, sometimes 25% better than league average at the plate, hitting for great power, better than average contact skills. And those contact skills were still there this year. And that's why I'm not totally jumping ship with him. With some older players, you see that in their decline where they just don't have the same bat speed they used to have, or and for that reason, either they miss the ball more or they foul off more pitches and get behind in the count. And for him, he works deep counts, but he's still able to get balls in play at the end of the day. A complicated year for him. On a personal side, he lost his grandfather right in the middle of the year, and I think for all of us that in the midst of this pandemic, how extra challenging it is to grieve when you lose somebody and aren't able to have that same type of coping mechanism that we usually have in terms of being around our loved ones. That I think that really threw him off, and that's why I'm not going to overreact to what we saw during the shortened season. He's someone that has had durability issues in the past, and I don't know exactly what that's going to look like moving forward. But we're pretty late here in the draft, and there's a lot of still solid bats in this minor league system that I could have picked from. But with him, he just has this really long track record pre 2020 of being an impact bat, and so I'm going to bet on a bounce back with him being a really solid hitter, even if it's not a true everyday player for the next handful of years. And even if you're punting the final few years of this 10-year window, I think it's still a fair value at this stage. Did you guys remember that Dickerson is still on the Marlins?
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
No, because I could understand a lot of people are kind of over him, but yeah, I mean, especially in this market, they're going to have trouble getting rid of that contract even if they wanted to. So I think one way or another, he's going to be on this team. I don't what that playing time looks like. I don't know, but they're going to give him a shot. I mean, they don't really have much of a choice.
You know, if it's strictly hitting, it's a good pick, which it's a perfect segue for my pick. I do agree that there is some good hitting left in the minors, but couldn't do it, man. I had to stick with the best hitter there is in the world. Alex has a Bahamian duo in his team. Well, I'm gonna have a Colombian duo on my team. Hidden Harold Andres Ramirez for my DH spot. He can hit, man. He will hit anywhere. He'll hit contact, power. I believe in him. Great attitude, always with a smile on his face. I think it's, great team member, great for the clubhouse. And does, even though he is pretty new to the majors, he does have his experience. Even though he's not old, he's only 26, still has, 5 years of control, I believe, left. So I'm gonna put Hidden Harold Ramirez as my team's DH.
I let him go. I mean, he finished the year with that hamstring issue, but I think you know this better than I do, that he's suiting up to play in the next few days in the professional league that they have in Colombia.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where he's going to play, but if he plays it for the same team as he did last year, which is my hometown team, the Caimanes of Barranquilla, he's going to play in the same team as Alfaro is. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty clear about how I root for Harold and rooting for the best with him, but I hope so. I hope he finds a role with this team. Forget your fake team here. I hope in real life that they carve out a role for him, but it's crowded. There's a lot of competition, and I mean, he was the opening day cleanup hitter, if I remember correctly, that Mattingly had a ton of faith in him coming out of summer camp. So yeah, so I hope for the best for him. I wasn't willing to roll the dice on him with this team, but yeah, he always has a place in my heart. As we move on to back to Alex Carver, your second to last pick in this Marlins dream draft.
All right, guys, here's the veteran of my squad. All right, it's a guy who's faced a ton of hate from, everybody, including some people who, are so-called experts, to almost everybody in the Marlins fan base. But I'm going with my DH here, and I'm going with Lewis Brinson. Okay. Lewis Brinson, let's just cite one stat about 2020 for Lewis Brinson. And this will point to exactly why I'm picking him and exactly why I think this latest set of adjustments, and yes, he's made many, but this latest set of adjustments is exactly what he needed. 24 hits on the season. Small sample size aside, guys, here, okay? 24 hits on the season. 12 of those hits in the month of September. He's turning the corner. I don't care what anybody says. Lewis Brinson's turning the corner. He's ready to be here. Is he going to stick in the outfield with all the Marlins have coming? Questionable. He still has a little competition to navigate when it comes to what we have coming as far as DH, including Gerard and maybe a couple of others, or maybe some outside sources that we go to for at bat only. But I think if Lewis turns the corner and starts tapping into that power and really starts staying straight away like he has been, fighting balls off his hands, lengthening at bats is the biggest thing for Brinson with me. I haven't broken to the, advanced metrics on that, how many pitches he was seeing versus how many he was seeing earlier on. I have not broken into that, but I think it would favor him if we did. Just putting that out there. So Lewis Brinson here for me. I think he's made the right adjustments. I think he's ready to go. I think he's ready to finally prove himself. So DH, Lewis Brinson.
He's to this moment one of the most popular players on the team. He had that iconic moment after the wild card series win, celebrating with the cigars. He's so easy to root for, man. I was as shocked as anybody. In particular, he had that hot streak. I think it bridged the end of August to early September, where he was for a couple of weeks there. He was OPSing right around 1,000. And that was the kind of thing that we never saw from him at all during those previous 2 years. So I'll give him credit for like finding a new level of performance, but I don't know if that new ceiling is anything more than like a fifth outfielder. But he's a guy that gets such a wide range of opinions, very polarizing guy, based on ones that just focus on the stats versus the ones that believe in the tools and the fact that the pedigree and of course the work ethic that he has, that his career could go in a lot of different directions. So I think that's good value to get this late in the draft. I was never going to stay near him at this point. For me, I'm kind of skeptical, but I hope for everybody's sake that he really figures it out and proves himself over the course of a full season as we enter the final round of our draft. Picks number 34, 35, and 36. We are filling out our rosters, 12 players to a team. I'm looking for a catcher, and I think it's very fitting that at the very bottom of my lineup, I am putting Chad Wallach, because he is a guy that no matter what lineup you are filling out, Chad Wallach is going to be at the bottom of it. He's going to be nowhere else but the very bottom of your lineup, because offensively, he's not going to give you a whole lot. There were some bright spots in 2019 offensively before he had a concussion. Came back in 2020. And once he got his opportunity, he got a couple key hits as well, including one right towards the end of the year that helped him get a critical win against the Braves. And but more so with him, it's just defensively. He, by all accounts, he just has a really great handle on how to call a game, on anticipating what to do with a pitcher's arsenal to get the most value out of it. The overall stats don't really back it up. I mean, he was behind the plate for a couple of the really ugly blowout losses. But I think you need to defer to what people on the team are saying about his ability to work with them, understand them. And I think by any measure, his career to this point has already been a bit more than we could have anticipated. I don't think anybody could have dreamed of him starting postseason games, much less starting every single postseason game behind the plate for a Marlins team that was in that kind of situation. So that was a great streak he had. I'm not so sure he's going to build upon what he did in 2020, but he is 29 years old. I think he just turned 29. He actually shares a November 4th birthday with me. He's one of the few Major League Baseball players that is also born on November 4th. So that's good for him. But I'm really only going with him because of the very concerning catcher options that we have in this organization. Once we get past Alfaro and Banfield, it's kind of messy. So
yeah, it was him or Nick Fortes, or you put it. I saw you put Archimedes Kumana swing
yes.
a couple of days ago.
Yes.
So, yeah, he was also an option.
Yeah, just the quick backstory on that the Marlins, they protected 19 new players from the AAA phase of the Rule 5 draft, guys that they just didn't want to risk giving away in the Rule 5, at least the minor league portion. And that was the one player on that list that I did not know anything about whatsoever. I don't think I had heard his name because he hadn't played stateside yet. And we'll see where he goes. He actually didn't play very much catcher at all during his most recent season in the Dominican Summer League, but Archimedes Kumana. That's a name to know, not necessarily a player to know, but that's a great name to keep in mind. So our
piggybacking off of Archimedes Caminero, by the way.
Yes, here's the first name. There's some precedent for an Archimedes playing for the Marlins.
He's got a lot to live up to, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. 104th on my list, by the way.
Just missed the top 100.
Just missed. He's actually played more first base than catcher, but let's go.
Right.
All right, for my last pick, I think, I was between, putting up some experience and some good leadership. I decided to just go pitching. I mean, we got two pitchers. I think best thing we can do is just add some depth just in case. And with that in mind, I mean, Eddie, man, that kid is going to be amazing. Eddie Cabrera is my wild card. Another Dominican, Dominican horse. I mean, the kid just looks amazing. 100+ mile per hour fastball, better slider than Sixto's from everything I've heard. It looks like an amazing wipeout pitch. The changeup is also looking pretty good, not Sixto good, but there are people who say that Eddie is going to be even better than Sixto. That's pretty, it's a tall order, but he's got the height, he's got the body, he's got the fastball. An amazing, 2019 was an amazing improvement for him, especially with that slider. That really changed it up for him. He would have debuted last season if it wasn't for an injury he had. I really wanted to see him in the NLDS, but alas, it didn't happen. Eddie Cabrera finishing up my my pitching rotation with Sixto and Trevor Rogers.
Yeah, awesome. Just an awesome potential that guy has. And it's close. I was holding out hope, too, that we're going to see him make that rare debut during the postseason. It seems like there was an opportunity for that. Probably wouldn't have made the difference, I don't think, in that Braves series, but it would have been just one little positive takeaway to get from that. So instead, we have to wait, another 6 months or 8 months or so for him to break through. But yeah, once he breaks through, he's going to be electric. And here we go. Mr. Irrelevant, as they call this with other drafts, the very final pick of the draft. But in this case, with the Marlins, there are no Mr. Irrelevance because this organization is so deep in quality options and guys that can impact the game in different ways. And with Alex, you've saved your wild card pick, so you can go in literally a couple hundred different directions here to fill out your team. Who is it?
So I know who you think I'm going to pick, Eli. I know who Daniel thinks I'm going to pick, but I'm going to throw a curveball quite literally at both of you guys. And I'm going to take Daniel's guy. Okay. I'm going to take Uri Perez right here as the last pick. I called it out to Eli when he told us about this. I was like, if he's there at the end of the draft, I'm going to take him. And I'm taking him, but not just because he's Daniel's guy. I'm going to take him for a couple different reasons. Look at what this guy did in Sharks. Okay. The videos are out on him for a reason. Okay. These videos are being published on this guy and the words about him are being spoken for a reason. The size, let's talk about the size. Number one. Okay. Just insurmountable size. And the guy, I think just turned 18. I want to say maybe 19. One of those.
No. I think he's still 17.
I think he just had a birthday. I could be wrong about that, but in either regard, the point's made. He's a kid. Okay. He's just a kid, just out of, his home country, brand new here in the States. I don't care if he's throwing pitches against his own guys. To me, that's even quite more impressive because these guys continue to see him a couple times and he's still able to get strikes. So yeah, Perez is a guy here for me with 3 pitches already. The way that he is already masking arm speed on these pitches for me. And I've watched his videos like 10,000 times. I don't care if they're only 3-4 pitches per video. It's impressive to me at this age for a guy to do what he's doing. So Paris here, I think he definitely has a while to go, but it's the last pick in your draft, Eli. I think this kid, 17, 18, whatever he may be, you know, it doesn't matter. He's definitely here to make an impression. He already has. I think he's going to be good. And I think he's going to be challenging for a rotation spot someday for the Marlins. So yeah, Paris for me here.
Incredible. That guy, it's the little samples that we get out of him. It's not much to go on, but it couldn't be any more impressive. And
if we assume, just for exercise, that, so, you know, for front end guys like, I don't know, like Garrett Cooper, you know, you get him, and then the last 3 years are replacement players. And then for back end guys like Aneri Perez, you know, it's replacement players until they're ready, and during those 10 years, and then, you know, they'll finish it out. Alex's team is going to be really bad those first 3 years, but then he's going to kick our butts. I mean, I think it's all prospects except Brinson.
Yeah, I mean, it's his team is. I'll read the team right now. We'll do quick breakdowns of his team. For Alex Carver, his team: Jazz Chisholm at shortstop, right-hander Max Meyer, left-hander Daxton Fulton, catcher Will Banfield, outfielder Peyton Burdick, outfielder Griffin Conine, third baseman Jose Salas, first baseman Nick Reddy, outfielder Victor Mesa, second baseman Ian Lewis, DH Lewis Brinson, and his wild card Yeri Perez, where really only 2 of those guys realistically would be on a Major League Opening Day roster, Brinson and maybe Jazz, and even that's kind of debatable. But you're right. You fast forward a couple of years, and all of a sudden, one of the best teams that money can buy, and of course, you wouldn't need much money to buy it because it'd all be like rookies or in their second year. But he's putting a lot of faith in their potential and their tools and their work ethic, and in either the Marlins organization or his fictitious player development system on Team Alex that would get the most out of these guys and get them hungry to keep getting better and better. With Team Daniel, he led off with right-hander Sixto Sanchez, first baseman Lewin Diaz, left-hander Trevor Rogers, catcher Jorge Alfaro, outfielder Monte Harrison, second baseman Isan Diaz, outfielder Cameron Meisner, shortstop Nasim Nunez, outfielder Connor Scott, third baseman Osiris-Johnson, DH Harold Ramirez, and wild card Edward Cabrera. And it's a little bit of both, where you went with a couple guys that have short minor league track records, a lot of those that are 1 or 2 years into their major league careers. And I mean, with those 2 pitchers, with Sixto as a right-hander and the wild card with Eddie Cabrera, I mean, it's impossible to get any 2 pitchers with better pure stuff and better upside than those 2 guys. So, I mean, yeah, that's another one that they stay healthy and they carry you as far as you could ever want to go. With Team Eli led off at the first overall pick, outfielder JJ Bleday, and then from there, third baseman Brian Anderson, #PayBA, first baseman Garrett Cooper, outfielder Jesus Sanchez, right-hander Sandy Alcantara, second baseman John Birdie, outfielder Gerard Encarnacion, shortstop Jose Devers, wild card Pablo Lopez, left-hander Braxton Garrett, DH Corey Dickerson, and my catcher, batting last, Chad Wallach. And I think my team is the oldest of all these. I went with a couple guys that are already in their 30s and a couple that you worry about aging because of their particular skill sets. I'm just banking, as you said, it's the total opposite. If you combine my team and Alex's team, 24 guys, if you squeeze all those guys onto one real life active roster, then you get the best of everything. But
to me here, and I'm looking at this, I hope you publish this chart for Fish Stripes, Eli, because it's like a perfect symmetry for me. It's Team Eli with the elder squad here, other than Bleday, obviously, and a couple others there, Braxton on your team. But obviously the elder squad here for Eli Daniel's got like the mix of both, kind of the best of both worlds. He's got a little bit of both here. He's got guys that have made their debuts and some guys that are further away. Plus he's throwing Harold, who obviously has been here. And then for me, I'm just like as far on the farm as you could possibly be. So it's kind of a funny symmetry, the way it shook out, especially with the draft order being what it was and my stupid guess as far as your trivia question, but that's okay. But still, I think it's really funny how that shook out, how like, you know, you who spend most of your time, you know, covering what's happening in the majors, and then me and Daniel who kind of go back and forth between the farm and the majors, you know, it's kind of funny how it shook out. So just pointing it out.
Trust me, just a quick word. I tried, man. I tried to like take more risks with these prospects. I went with a couple guys that are still multiple years away, but yeah, I just put a lot of stock into what we've seen already at the major league level. Even though this farm system is great, you love the depth that this farm system has, but so few like really sure things, in my opinion. So few guys that you really know. And that my first pick is the one guy that I really, of all the prospects, with JJ Bleday, he's the one that I'm most confident in just checking all the boxes and building out for a 10-year frame. And with everybody else, I tried to have that unconditional faith in them. And I didn't push myself out of my comfort zone enough, but the fun thing about this exercise is that it's repeatable. This is something that I told you I played 4 months ago, and I think heading into opening day next year, I plan to like do this all over again, whether it's with you guys or I pick a couple other GMs to draft with. That this is something that you can constantly update, because our opinions on these players are constantly changing. I mean, to think that just to give some examples, I mean, with Sandy coming into this year, that I wasn't totally sure about him justifying what we saw from him during his All-Star season, and he absolutely did. I mean, with some of these prospects that we didn't know anything about coming out of the draft, imagine that Peyton Burdick would go in the top half of this organizational draft when he was a guy that nobody had ever really seen play in college, that he made such a powerful impression in such a limited amount of time, that our opinions on these guys, they change so quickly, whether it's because of injury or whether it's just because of a particular hot streak or cold streak that they have, that it's constantly evolving. And that's why even when there are no games to be played, we're following them on Instagram, or we're just checking in. We're just reading any of the findings that we can find online from other evaluators that are in there in person, just to try to influence our thinking. And the reality is that little things can change us, can put us onto a player or take us off of him. And
I think I can speak for all three of us here when I'll say that it's been so hard to scout players, minor league players this year. Like, other than like the couple reports we heard out of Instructs and obviously the videos that we see and everything, obviously we're going to put a little stock into that because that's what we're seeing, right? But I think next year when the minor league season does get back going, wherever the affiliates may wind up, who knows what's going to happen there. I think we'll definitely see exactly who's who in this Marlins minor league system. So excited for that.
By the way, as a final note for me, I have to give you props, Eli, because you didn't miss a single tilde accent. Wow. Every single one.
Some, I'm still cleaning up a few of them with, people will see the final product. The final product will have all of the correct pronunciation. I take a lot of pride in that as someone that runs a website. And even when I'm just putting together a tweet, I want to get these guys' names right, because this organization is has such a heavy presence of Latin American players that especially are their key players as well, that you want to pay respect to what their actual names are. And so everybody, whether you're following us on social media at Fish Stripes on Twitter and Instagram, or even on Facebook, whether you see this on our website, fishstripes.com, you're going to see our final draft board and where we picked. And we want to hear from you. Which team do you prefer? Who did best? Was it Alex Carver? Was it Daniel DeVivo? Was it Eli Sussman? We're going to have polls there to actually gauge the results, to see who you thought did the best, because there was so much talent to choose from. Frankly, I think we all did well. I think we can all feel confident in our own ways about the way that these teams came together. So there really are no true losers and winners, but we want the people to decide who they think won at the end of the day. And so we'll look forward to seeing all of your feedback from that. So from Alex and Daniel and Eli, thank you for listening to the official show on the Fish Stripes podcast at the start of what should be a very important offseason, even though it's been very quiet so far. So we're grateful that you've been able to spend, almost close to 2 hours listening to this. Hopefully it'll be a little bit shorter, the final version that I put up on our podcast feed. So thank you very much. Keep following along. You can find us all on Twitter. Alex Carver at Marlins Miners on Twitter, Daniel DeVivo at Daniel DeVivo, me, both at Fish Stripes and at Real Eli. We look forward to interacting with you all. So thank you so much. And as always, go fish.